Hello, and welcome to a short tour of historic chisels. Up first, we have a 1/4-inch mortise chisel from the 1800s. The maker mark on it is unclear, so I'm unsure who made it. This is a socket chisel with a handle that fits inside the metal end. These wooden handles were made with a draw knife or a foot-powered lathe. So it's best to choose a hardwood instead of a softwood for these tool handles because they take quite a bit of abuse. Mortise chisels typically have a steeper cutting edge, and they are used to make mortises. Up next, we have a 1-inch T.H. Witherby paring chisel made in Winston, Connecticut. This was made between 1849 and 1854. Here you can see where someone damaged the socket by continuing to hit the chisel with a hammer, even though the handle had fallen off. It is also not recommended to use a metal hammer on a chisel, but instead a wooden mallet. Paring chisels are more delicate than other types of chisels and should be pushed instead of hit. They are kept sharper than other chisels and are used to remove long surface sections of wood in the direction of the grain. Up next is a 3/4-inch Ohio tool paring chisel made by the prisoners of Ohio State Penitentiary between 1841 and 1880. Here you can see the leftover wood inside the socket where the handle broke off. This socket will need to be hollowed out to fit a new handle. This is the smallest tool of the bunch and could be used as a cleanup chisel. Smaller chisels are easier to maneuver and can fit in tight spaces for cleaning up rough work done with larger chisels. And now for my personal favorite. This is a 1.5-inch framing chisel made by Underhill Edge Tool Company in Boston, Massachusetts between the years 1852 and 1890. It is heavy duty and has developed a beautiful patina. Here you can see how thick this chisel is and how it is slightly rounded. You can also very clearly see the laminated metals. The darker colored steel used for the bottom layer is made of a much harder steel. This is so that the cutting edge stays sharp longer. The rest of the chisel is made of a softer steel to make production cheaper. This is a corner chisel made by Geo Parr in Buffalo, New York between 1861 and 1871. Corner chisels are handy for cleaning up the corners of a mortise in a timber frame joint. This chisel also has a bit of a mushroomed socket where someone was hitting it with a hammer. I have started sharpening this one, but I have quite a long way to go. And you can also see here a pretty large nick, but luckily it's towards the outside of the cutting edge and not near the point. I will also be repairing the socket and making a new handle for it. Here is another corner chisel. This one appears to be made by A.J. Crossman, although the maker stamp is a bit hard to see. This chisel is quite a bit shorter than the last one, likely due to decades of sharpening. Crossman manufactured their tools out of Warren, Massachusetts between 1850 and 1866. This is a great example of a clean socket. It is undamaged and ready for a new handle. And now moving on to the larger chisels. Up next is an unidentified 2-inch framing chisel. As far as I can see, there aren't any maker marks or logo stamps. I have contacted the seller to see if they have any more information on the tool, so fingers crossed. You can see here that someone replaced the original handle with a slick style handle for pushing the tool instead of hitting it with a mallet. Timber slicks usually range from 2¼ inches to 3 inches, so this chisel doesn't quite make the cut. This last chisel is pretty neat. This is another Geo Parr socket chisel. This one is 2 inches and is the same maker of the small chisel shown earlier. It has an interesting beveled top with a blacksmith forged ring. The ring is there to keep the handle from splitting when hit with a mallet. The odd thing about this chisel is that the socket cants upward like a timber slick would. Here you can see how the handle tilts upward. The advantage of this is that when paring a long flat surface, the chisel can stay almost parallel to the wood, preventing it from gouging into the surface. This chisel is also pretty hefty, and you can also see the laminated metal layers. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tour through a small bit of chisel history, and stay tuned for more.